Welcome to the Subjective Professor podcast, where we reject coercion and hypocrisy. It's Friday, May 2nd, 2025. This is episode 377. You are all a bunch of socialists. So I was reminded of this quote the other day, and as much as some might criticize it for being kind of extreme and unforgiving, intolerant, perhaps, I totally get it. So at least I think I totally get it. I thought I totally got it. So I tried to do some superficial research to confirm my feelings, and because previously I've made some conclusions or I made some statements, and I find out that Mises had already said it decades ago, and it confirms a theory that I had shared with you before, that when you lock into a subjective perspective, you can pretty much know what someone will say and what they have said, simply because if they're consistent, you know what their mindset is. And as a result, you know what they have to say if they remain consistent with what they say they believe. And Mises is definitely Ludwig von Mises, basically the big name in Austrian economics, was that if he was anything. So it was, I wanted to look into it a little bit more and then turn it into an episode. And so much to my surprise and happiness, Llewellyn Rockwell, who is one of the founders of the Mises Institute, wrote an article, Mises and Liberty. And I think it was reprinted recently, I believe like 2023 or 2024. But that's what it's called, Mises and Liberty by Llewellyn Rockwell. And you can find it on the Mises Institute, Mises.org. And I believe, judging by some of the things that were in the article itself, that he wrote this some time ago. So I'm just going to read some excerpts from the, I think it was a talk that he had given somewhere. It was in the style of a talk. So I think this was his transcript, and then I have some things to say about it at the on the other side. Okay, so the autobiography of Milton and Rose Friedman tells a story about Ludwig von Mises. In 1947, some free market economists, including Friedman and Mises, came together to form the Mont Pelerin Society. But Mises was clearly agitated at the ideological tenor of the discussion. Finally, he stood up and shouted, "You are all a bunch of socialists," and stamped out. In the story, the Mont Pelerin Society went on to glory as the fountainhead of the classical liberal revolution. Just to interject here, I read somewhere else that uh, the incident actually happened in the 50s, in the 1950s, not in 47 when it first they started meeting. Okay, so just put that in there. I continue. The point of the anecdote, that is the story of Mises stomping out, is to make Mises appear to be a fanatical ideologue and Friedman a man of reason. Don't get me wrong, I love Friedman because of the way he was able to talk and give examples, but he falls short in other things. So anyway, let's get back to this. It assumes that for Mises, sticking to a principle was some sort of fetish that prevented him from thinking strategically or cooperating with like-minded scholars. It conveys the message that adherence to strict standards of truth is the enemy of practicality. Mises's adherents assured that his audience would be limited to a small set of followers, and that his way of thinking would be ignored by intellectual leaders and statesmen who could actually make a difference in the world. The difference between the Chicago school, that would be Milton Friedman's school of economics, and the Austrian school of economics, that would be Ludwig von Mises's uh, economic theory school, is the assumption that human affairs affects of policies can be quantified or measured as a lab experiment, all things being equal except for a variable. And then I quote, but in human affairs, there is no controllable constants. There are only established laws of cause and effect. Precisely what empirical testing cannot discover on its own. And he goes, and I'm paraphrasing, Chicago school, in the Chicago school, they have no fixed principles. Everything is empirical analysis, right? So the only way they can comment on, say, for example, the effects of the minimum wage is to see uh, the minimum wage law in action and then analyze the results, like what happened once we passed the law. And if you don't pass it, then it's difficult to posit or to theorize what might be the possible or the most likely outcome, right? So that's the problem and shortcoming of the Chicago school is that they need empirical data. But the problem there is because of the human component, right? Things can change depending on what you are measuring, how, what are you measuring, what kind of data are you taking? Because there are, it, quite possibly a tremendous amount of data that comes as a result of this legislation. However, economists, because they can't study all of it, will pick and choose what they're going to study and measure, which becomes the foundation of their conclusions. So back to reading from the article. At the Mont Pelerin Society meeting where the famed blow-up occurred, several economists were debating how to structure the tax system so the government could collect the most revenue while not distorting the operation of the free market. To Mises, this discussion presumed several wrong-headed notions. First, that the government is entitled to collect as much revenue as it can get away with collecting. And we know that taxation is theft, right? They are not entitled to our income. Like, what did they do? What contribution did they make to my paycheck? And Erwin Schiff, uh, yeah, wait, is it? Oh, yeah, Erwin Schiff, I believe he said that having, this phenomena of um, them taxing you is like the government is your silent business partner who contributes nothing to the business but takes 30-40% of everything that's made, right? And so that's basically it. The government pretends that it's doing something for us and then declares that it's entitled to take 30-40% of what we make. The second problem is that taxes of the 1950s were not fundamentally injurious to the market economy, right? And so these economists believe that there is a optimal rate of taxes so that it wouldn't affect the basic functioning of the market, of the free market. That in fact the taxes can make it more efficient or somehow make it better. But obviously that's not right because the taxes that are collected are now going to incentivize bad choices in the free market. Now, the third wrong-headed notion is that economists should be in the business of giving advice with an eye to what is best for the state. Yeah, that's not it. So basically, what that problem is that the government wants to do something evil, like stealing our money, and the economist is there to justify it, to say, yeah, this is what's right. And so they're basically legitimizing crime, right? For the benefit of the state, not for us. The fourth wrong-headed notion is that there is a branch of economics dealing with tax theory that can be considered as separate and distinct from the whole of economics. And we kind of touched on that already, but obviously I'm not a trained economist. And so there must be some more um, a different, significant difference that is perhaps more subtle than I can see, right? But there is no sub theory, the sub section of economics that's tax theory, right? Because taxes affect the whole economy and the individuals who live in it. The fifth wrong-headed notion, this is the last one, is that economists should try to design measures of government interference to achieve optimal results, right? So there's a little bit of overlap in some of these, but it puts a finer point on the problem of the attitude of many of the economists who are working for the government. So basically, it's economists playing house, right? So it's like a bunch of kids playing with a dollhouse, saying, "Oh, you do this, you do that." Like they can control all these people. Or perhaps it's economists playing God, right? Oh, yeah, sure. We just do this, we change this over here, and presto, you get what you want. So, in contrast to those economists, right, including people like Hayek, Friedman, right, who are so-called free market economists, and Hayek is an Austrian school guy, but at the same time, he did make compromises, which Mises did not. So, for Mises, freedom is everything. Of the students that he taught, some of them were willing to compromise and be used by the state, but not Mises, right? And my commentary is that, for a lot of people, the draw of fame or even money to support their family um, is the in. It's the way to get people to compromise. But for Mises, that was not the issue. I'm familiar with this attitude. My father was like this as well. There was no compromise in what he believed was true, right? And just from his subjectivity, he could see the problems with other people's approach. So compromise is risky in a world where words are taken out of context and can be used against you. For example, Clinton would quote Reagan, supposedly the great conservative president of recent history. He quoted Reagan's support of the UN, United Nations, and the IMF, which are not, free market entities. These are just more government bureaucracies and just simply more government. Also, people have used Hayek in his support, limited support of welfare, and when they do that, they ignore everything else that they said and did, right? And so that's the problem of compromise. Where you compromise, that is what everyone quotes. That is what everyone points to and says, hey, look, he's an Austrian economist, and he said this is fine, right? And so you have this problem, and you don't have this problem with Mises. Now, Mises's motto came from, I believe, a work by Virgil. And so it translated to English, it says, do not give in to evil, but proceed ever more boldly against it, right? And in the original, I have it somewhere. I have it here somewhere. Oh, I don't have it right next to the, wow. Okay, I don't have it right next to the English, but it'll come up. But that's what is in the title of the episode. Tu ni cede malice, right? Do not give in to evil. And for him, it's human choice which comes first. It's, in other words, it's human choice which created society. All the individuals living in society, their choice created, their choices collectively created the society in which we live. It is not the other way around. It is not that society was there first and now it imposes its will on us, shaping us and guiding us to make certain decisions over certain decisions in certain situations. So it's people who make society what it is. Society does not make people who they are. In other words, all of us still have the power of choice. We have agency, we have minds, we have the ability to look at our situation and try to figure out what is the best choice for us in that moment. And each of us have different choices to make because each of us are different. And this is what's so beautiful to me. This is beautiful. This system, this theory, you have choice and you have responsibility. Um, I don't know, personally, I see a lot of beauty in that dynamic. And I've said this before, and people have accused me, right? Part of my hearing, my arbitration is that I know they're going to say, accuse me of being biased, that I'm pushing my own subjectivity. But what people don't understand is that it's the subjectivity which, my subjectivity is the subjectivity which empowers and allows everyone to do what they want, right? Without guilt, without this moral shame factor, right? You can do whatever you want, really. And I say that, except you have to pay for your choices and you have to take responsibility for the outcome. So if you want to go 150 miles an hour on the highway, that's your choice, right? And so if you kill someone or create damage or even kill yourself, well, that's your responsibility, you see. And so as people are making their choices, other people, right? If one individual is making certain choices, everyone else is watching that person. In fact, we all watch each other all of the time to see how their choices turned out. And that becomes a data point for us. Oh, wow, that guy went 150 miles an hour on the highway and now he's dead. You know what? I'm not going to do that, right? And so this is how we discover what is moral. This is how we figure out what is actually good. And this is what I have described before as morality discovery, right? In economics, they have this idea of price discovery, and I just sort of put a spin on it and say, yeah, this is how we figure out what is actually moral and what is not moral, right? Like going 150 miles an hour when you're not a professional driver, you're not, trained to do that. It's a public highway or yeah, it's a public highway, which means there's a lot of other people on the road and there are speed limits. And so you have all of these other factors. So probably not a moral thing. And so this dynamic of everyone making the choice that they want, but taking responsibility for it, that's the free market, you see. And anything other than that is socialism, right? Socialism is the attempt to get other people to pay for their choices and the consequences, right? You're socializing the cost, you're socializing the the consequences, right? The cost of the consequences. And Lou Rockwell, starts to bring his article to a close by saying that governments are vulnerable. A government without the consent of the people has nothing, right? And the trust and consent of the people continually erodes, are in the process of eroding. And so we have to keep pushing. We have to continue to inform people, get people to realize, yes, that the government entity is not there to help you, right? It is your adversary. And so even this podcast, where it's just at this point, 10 or 15 people uh, a week listening to these episodes, even that is a start. I don't poo-poo it at all. In fact, I appreciate that people are actually, listening um, to me talk about these things. But, you know, it's about sharing these ideas. It's about encouraging each other to talk about the potential, the possibility of freedom with other people, especially people who are struggling. No, I say struggling, and it reminds me, I was yesterday was not only May Day, but it was also the National Day of Prayer here in the United States. And I was asked to pray with a bunch of other church leaders in the neighborhood, to basically pray over the country. And my topic that I was supposed to pray about was business. And of course, I worked in the bubble economy and how the dollar had popped and all this other stuff in the prayer. And my wife just kind of laughed at me for doing that in a prayer full of pastors who probably never think about economic issues. But I just threw it out there just to see to help someone who might be struggling. And sure enough, after the meeting was over, someone came up to me and basically we started talking economics. It was very interesting. So I don't know. For me, I can't not talk about a lot of these issues which influence society as a whole. But I've been doing it for decades now, and so I do it like I'm breathing. Each of us, we have to come up with a way of doing it so that, unlike Mises, where he offended a lot of the people that he spoke to, we can deliver it in such a way as to hook people and to get them interested and to ask questions so that we can bring them a little bit further down the road. But I see this pattern of compromise, uh, you know, so far it's Mises seeing compromise in other economists. And so he's not going to compromise. Well, this pattern of compromise and not compromising, I see it everywhere in theology and academics and Christianity and faith. But popularity is not the sign of being correct or the mark of success. Because for a lot of people, there is a sellout point, a price where they're going to say, okay, fine, I'll compromise on this idea. So it's that idea, everyone has their price, except for the fanatics, right? And so I've talked about religious fanatics. Religious fanatics are in economics too. I would say that Mises was a fanatic about his belief in the economy, and that is his religion. That was what gave his life meaning. That is how he was able to make decisions for himself and for his family, is because that was what he believed was true. Way back in episode 7, I talk about resetting perspective through the deconstruction of religion. And there I try to explain my approach is that once you establish a good definition of any phenomena, you can explain anything that uses that word, okay, that concept from your subjectivity. I used religion as an example, but you can do this with race. I've done it with race, right? You can do it with many, many different things. And recently I've done it with fascism, right? We're all fascists now, right? So once you get that definition rock solid, where there are no exceptions, where everything is included, then you get to see the work of people who are creating a narrower subjectivity, right? So this reset perspective creates the broadest subjectivity. And from this extremely broad uh, perspective, you can see people doing things for an agenda, how they're creating their argument, their assumptions, and what they're really striving for. Not what they say they're trying for, but what they will actually get, right? And I believe Mises was doing this too. He set this perspective where freedom is primal. It is the most important concept to consider. And then once you establish that extreme radical freedom, then when someone compromises that freedom and say, yeah, freedom, except here, now you see what they're doing. Now you see what they're up to, and you can almost make good predictions of the outcomes. See, this is the problem of Trump, his arrogance, his fatal conceit, which is actually the title of a book that Hayek wrote on socialism, right? The fatal conceit of socialism is that he thinks he can run the United States like a business. But a business is like an introduc introduction to physics lab experiment compared to life, right? If you've ever taken physics and you've done labs, it's very simple, right? Extremely simple and straightforward. You have one variable, everything else is control. You don't change the variable there. And so Trump believes that life can be run that way. This country can be run that way, but it is too big to control. You have 350 million people all making different choices, especially in the face or as a reaction to what Trump does and declares is law now in the United States. And I get the sense too that Trump sees each issue that he addresses as a standalone issue. That's the way it seems, which is why he was surprised that tariffs turned out in the way that it did. He doesn't see the interconnectedness, the interrelated nature of things, how one policy affects people, and the decisions they'll now going to have to make as a result of that policy. And so we can all see that his numbers, his approval ratings are dropping like a stone. And it seems like if he keeps going this way, that the Democrats are going to take back the Congress in the midterm elections. You know, people like me can't really change the direction of this ship called the United States of America. I know that, you know, but the people, the few people who are listening who get it, then can share this information with other people so that they can get ready for the storm that is coming, right? And we want to try to help as many people as possible. And so for me, it's like, okay, if I talk to 10 people this week, they talk to 10 people, and they talk to 10 people, and you have this exponential progression. And that's just the slow and steady way that we have to do. Those are the cards we're dealt, right? The situation in which we're living, and this is what we got to do. And those people that we reach, those people who get it, that it's all about human freedom, they become the leaders of, hopefully, the leaders of what comes next. Either we're leaders or we're inmates in some kind of gulag somewhere. But no matter where we go, we try to teach and lead by example, showing people what it actually means to be free. That's it for this episode. Stay free, people. I'll talk to you next time.